Star Wars Imperial Historian, the Ka-Iliad. Chapter 1. The Promise. The birds were tweeting a melody, celebrating the warm glow of the Neramu sun, overlooking the ruins of an old temple. And there was a lot of interest surrounding the broken stone erupting from the ground that was carefully being excavated and explored by a group of archaeologists. A number of holes in the surrounding grounds were delicately prepared to discover a hidden history buried beneath the soil. Light tappings of rock and stone accompanied the birds' melody from various shallow holes, and from one, two people were carefully dusting away dirt from a Samaric vase. It was already broken, as the earth had collapsed upon it for who knows how many years. But bit by bit, the two caressed the land ever gentle to explore this lost relic. One of the people was Narata, a Neramunian, decorated by sky-blue patterns swirling among their pale skin, with amber eyes under their ashen hair that swam into waves crashing into a plait from behind. Their clothing was akin to the others around the village, assisting the archaeologists, a beige wrapping with a blue hem and mustard colours of the sun. The other was a Nubian male, with light features contrasted against his dark green eyes and brown hair that draped like a curtain resting on his brow. He was properly fitted down to his leather boots. His double-breasted tunic was a dimmed royal blue with golden trimmings. The shoulder buttons were undone, revealing a cottoned collar shirt underneath. He was a loose imitation of others at the dig site who were deciphering symbols from the remnants of pillars and mosaics. This young man, Arthur Prowse, wore the uniform of the Republic Archaeological Service, a government-sanctioned archaeological institution to explore new discoveries across the galaxy. Steady. Steady now. Arthur spoke with a warm whisper to not startle himself or Narata as he placed his hands under the vase, while his partner delicately and with such precision displaced it from its resting place. "I've got it. Keep your hands still," Narata replied as they hovered each piece of vase into a cushioned box. There was a slight roll and twang to the Neramunian's voice, far removed from the proper and sharp words Arthur spoke from spending many years of his education at the galactic capital of Coruscant. "Dil ilma azoro," Narata blessed the pieces. "What is it you're saying?" Arthur spoke with intrigue and eagerness. "May you rest again." Arthur smiled and returned. "Then we better take care." "Ha! There's something inside the vase," Narata spoke with glee. Slow and steady, they nurtured the pottery. Even the most tiniest fragments were collected with such patience. Inside their box was now a puzzle of fragmented vase laid flat. All that was left to unearth from the ground was the object within. A wrapping, though degraded by age, protected its contents. Both Arthur and Narata delicately removed it from the hole and placed it upon the box. Narata unwrapped the material, and hiding within was a beauty not even specks of dirt could tarnish. 2 circular stones with swirling veins of minerals capturing the morning sun, still shining a warm amber glow. No words were spoken, for they were both dazzled in awe. Narata broke the silence. "I never thought we would unearth a pair of Ka-Iliads." "A Ka-Iliad?" asked Arthur, looking back at Narata. The Neramunian picked one up from the cloth and placed it into Arthur's hands. The stone was warm. It radiated heat. "Most have been sold off, or pillaged by raiders. They used to be commonplace on Neramu thousands of years ago. You would be extremely lucky to find just one of a pairing. It is told that our people who fought against the Rakatan Empire, gave them as gifts to friends, families, and loved ones. When two paired stones are close, they shine a golden shimmer, a promise to be united. Narata looked back to Arthur, catching him in complete attentiveness to every word they spoke as they coddled the stone. They smiled and continued. Now we know it true. That is a beautiful story, Arthur acknowledged. And what of the wrappings? What does it say? Narata placed the wrappings flat on top of the box lid, smoothing it to read. They scanned the writings with their finger, first reading it silently, then again to Arthur. Volcala Sonara, Ento Erenkin. Stars dazzle in night sky, shines path to one brighter than above. Warm glow, soft to touch, a reminder to keep hope from cold of night. Whispers from wind, rumbling of rock, converse a valley to guide me back. Trickle from rivers, enchant me to follow. There I find such brilliance, the Neramu sun rising over mountains. Its imitations disappear in blue, yet none have outshone you. Lifting their eyes from the writing, Narata looked back at Arthur, who was holding on to every word they spoke. He laughed, gesturing his hand in the air. This is what it's all about. Not the clinical governments, the ruling lords or kings idolized by propaganda, but for people. The stories of the ones who lived and took each day for what it was. Not for the grand historical text, but for the moment as we do today. Arthur composed himself. Thank you. Thank you for reading that. Narata smirked. It is an honor to speak it. Ah, and what is it you have found, my dear boy? Spoke a slow, deep voice from above. Both Arthur and Narata were startled, turning quick to see above the hole they had dug, greeted by an overcast of an older gentleman with his hands on his hip, keeping his dark purple robe in place. Minister, we have found within this vase a private letter and, well, a treasured gift. Car-Iliads, Narata called them, reported Arthur. The man above waved the back of his hand. Right. Okay. Put it with the rest on the shuttle. We're leaving. Leaving? Both Arthur and Narata responded. Yes. An emergency transmission came through. We need to return to Coruscant. The galaxy is at war. You can't just take what is ours, Narata claimed. Yes, I can. Minister, these artifacts, they belong to the people of Neramu. Surely, if we dedicate the resources, they would arguably achieve an improved understanding, considering they have a better context from being localized. And yet, they still need to be catalogued. Something we cannot do here at this time. Now pack it up, and I will see you on the shuttle. The minister swished his cloak as he spun, disappearing from sight of the hole. Arthur, Narata begged. He took a deep breath and looked back at his companion. I'm sorry. I have to follow protocol. Sorry. He avoided looking at Narata, knowing that they were full of disappointment as he placed the artifacts in the box, clicking it shut. Arthur finally looked back at Narata and placed his hands towards them, opening his palm, housing a lit Car-Iliad. What? Take it. Arthur hushed, not to be overheard. Take it. Take it as a promise that I will return, and with your people's artifacts. Narata gently picked up the Car-Iliad and held it close to their chest. Nira mosto carvera. Dul ilma auzoro, Arthur blessed, picking up the box and climbing out of their hole. The sound of shuttlecraft preparing for takeoff was extraordinary, and the dust swirled as their engines purred, ready to leap once passengers were on board. Narada watched Arthur vanish into the mouth of one of the shuttles, joining his team of archaeologists. The dust had become a storm as the shuttle elevated. All the work of the historical dig site was being undone. The light of Narada's car Iliad was fading as the shuttle disappeared into the blue sky. But one day, Arthur Prowse would return, and the light of the car Iliad would brighten again. Chapter 2. The Decision. The sun was sinking behind the towers of Coruscant. The shine of the Republic had dimmed, eclipsed by a new galactic empire. It was all changing in front of Arthur as he gazed out of the window, standing silently within this large chamber, once alive with the aroma of parchment and stacks of books, the warm chuckle of conversations and debates of an artifact's origin, and with a new connection to a far-off world. The celebrations would have been held here. The music lingered. The clink of glasses echoed. A slow clapping of boots boomed through the chamber, approaching the solitary archaeologist as he quickly slid his car Iliad, the stone from Neramu, back into his pocket. "It is what it has to be, my boy," proclaimed the older gentleman with a slow, slithering voice, raising his arms open from the dark purple robe of a minister. "Everything is changing, and we must evolve or join in the ashes of these relics." Arthur spoke to the reflection of the gentleman, of whom was acting a smile. "The same relics that are being sealed away and forgotten from public viewing?" Arthur turned to face this man, who had now discarded his smile. That same man spoke with concern, placing his hand upon Arthur's shoulder to comfort him. "To be protected. As I have said before, these are delicate times. The galactic map is being redrawn, and now is the time to look to the future." Arthur exhaled, and took a moment before replying. "But do we not do the galaxy a disservice by hiding its teachings, the cultures and civilizations we have discovered? It belongs to them, to the people of the galaxy, not to be taken away into some vault." "Prowse, my dear boy, we do a disservice by not preserving. We must survive what is about to come." The minister spoke with tension, looking around for any unwanted ears, drawing himself closer to Arthur, now escorting him from the window. "Loyalties are being tested. Many among us seek to steal all we have gathered, all we have learned. I hope I can trust in you, my dear boy." Arthur returned up straight, taken aback, and responded, "Minister, I knew I could rely upon you," the minister interrupted, giving a pleasant yet sinister smile. "The Empire will provide a safe and secure society, stability in the galaxy, reclaiming artifacts not just from our sites, but from across the galaxy. We preserve its history from barbarians and treasure hunters. An Imperial archive will construct our knowledge of our galaxy, and I want to appoint someone I can trust, my boy." Again, the minister rested his hand behind Arthur's shoulder, walking across the chamber towards the door. Arthur was intrigued by what the minister was implying. The galaxy had just come out of 3 brutal years of war. Everything was changing fast in the last handful of weeks. Persecutions were rife. Any sign of separatist sympathy or doubt of the Empire's legitimacy was met with hostility from citizens, let alone the security forces. Was Arthur wary of this new power of the galaxy? Yes, of course. But if this was to be the new galactic order, he would do well to remain inside it and take advantage of the privileges of such an opportunity. The door opened to a corridor of empty shelves and display cabinets. In between were officers of the now defunct Republic Archaeological Service, moving large crates of the artifacts once placed here, now awaiting to be delivered to their new home, secure in an Imperial vault. The minister gave a courteous yet uninspired smile to the passing officer and returned to Arthur. "My boy, I want to appoint you to be a leading directive of this new initiative," the minister announced. Arthur gave an unintentional sharp exhale. "Me?" He paused to reassemble his thoughts and continued. "Thank you, Minister. I am most gracious of your generosity." The minister placed his hands together and returned to his crooked smile once more and escorted Arthur through the corridor. "There is no one more I trust than you, my dear boy. I am commissioning a new division upon the Empire, the Imperial Reclamation Service. The Empire we serve will want to control the narrative of the galaxy. Our service is to be the mouthpiece, to voice this perspective of historical events. It is our duty we uphold to reclaim lost items and history, and it is also our duty to combat the threats represented by such relics." Arthur straightened his back once again and responded, "Thank you for your confidence, Minister." In truth, Arthur was wondering what agreement he was about to accept. This talk of reclamation sounded like a perverse way of inheriting cultural artifacts that the Empire have no right to claim. But the appropriation could lead to more discoveries that they were too careful and missed under the Republic. With this extra strength for the Galactic Empire, this new Imperial Reclamation Service could explore the galaxy far more thorough and with exclusivity to its wonders. Imagine the forgotten histories Arthur Prowse could find with this new initiative. But what of the people of those cultures? He countered in thought. Many from across the galaxy. Their entire identity is with their culture's history and their way of life. To take that away from them would be removing the very thing what makes their artifacts so inspiring. Yet, what if something happened to them? What if, for their own protection, these artifacts needed to be rescued from ecological disasters, warring feuds, a break of faith? Surely, if the Empire archived them somewhere safe, these objects could yet remain forever preserved. Arthur bowed his head and proclaimed, "I accept this position, in service to you, the galaxy, and our Emperor." They had now reached the end of the corridor, and passing an archway framing a shuttlecraft before them on a landing pad. The minister once again held his hand upon Prowse's shoulder, more tighter than before, and spoke. "I knew I could count on you, my dear boy. I see a bright future for you and our new adventure. May the Emperor's blessings bestow upon you." Prowse smiled and returned, "And you?" The minister removed his grip and patted his new director on the shoulder before leaving for the shuttlecraft. The shuttle hummed, readying to jump from the landing pad. As the ramp of the craft detracted and rose, the minister turned to Prowse and sharply spoke. "My dear boy, don't let me down." The whooshing of the shuttle's ramp muted any response from Prowse, but there was none to give. He stood frozen. In that moment, he knew that his new position as director of the Imperial Reclamation Service would be closely watched. Although he now had the freedom to explore the galaxy as he saw fit, he felt trapped. The weight of responsibility, contextualizing the history of the galaxy, now rests upon his shoulders, and with it, uncomfortable decisions. He grabbed into his pocket, holding the car Iliad. Its glow was dim. He placed it back and crossed his arms. The fumes from the shuttle left an itch in Prowse's throat before dissipating. The air of the now night sky left a bitter chill. Arthur Prowse looked above the city skyline to the stars above. The galaxy had changed forever, and he as well. Chapter 3. The Reunion. The shuttle rattled Arthur Prowse within his seat. The turbulence entering the planet Neramu was severe. Thick black clouds choked the atmosphere from excessive mining operations, key for the Galactic Empire to keep the galaxy running smoothly, unlike this descent. Prowse was sat by himself, though not too far away from his escort of pristine, white armoured stormtroopers, pre-checking their blaster rifles. The same white Prowse was now sporting on his double-breasted tunic and overcoat that was hiding a blaster pistol holstered on his belt, matching the contrasting black flared trousers, leather gloves, and riding boots. He fashioned an Imperial rank plaque with 6 red badges sitting above the 6 blue. Arthur Prowse wore the uniform of that of the Director of the Imperial Reclamation Service. The shuttle had landed with a sudden thud, jolting the passengers inside. Prowse and his entourage awaited the ramp to lower, and as it opened to the dim, murky world ahead, Prowse stood tall with his arms behind his back and took an affirmative step forward. Gone now was the unbuttoned collar of his youth. He wore his uniform sharp, his hair showing specks of silver was slit back tightly, his face clean-shaven, revealing a look of disdain. An odour plagued this world. It was pungent, like rotten vegetables upon a forgotten farm. Prowse cleared his throat, trying to rid the dry, metallic taste in his mouth. Director Prowse and his stormtroopers pressed forward, cutting through the dark fog. The squelching of marching boots had startled a skeletal fox that scurried into the abyss. There was a constant howling of the wind, clashing with the robotic heartbeat of the mining site a distance away. Eventually, their boots stomped on stone. They had arrived. Surrounding them was broken pillars and cracked steps with faded markings. The director paused and placed his hand in his pocket, pulling out a stone. It was warm and glowed a bright amber. "I'd wondered if you'd come back," announced a sharp yet croaky voice piercing through the fog. The stormtroopers aimed their blasters towards the voice. Prowse looked ahead, searching the temple ruins. "I did say I would return," Prowse firmly announced. "Only too late." and with an armed escort. It was a necessity. Protocol. Protocol? An excuse you have used before. It is the truth. Now show yourself. You are frightening my men, asked Prowse, turning into a kind, familiar tone. An amber glow warmed the fog ahead. Prowse rose and opened his hand, signalling his troopers to hold position before he continued forward and enveloped into the amber fog. The world disappeared around Prowse. Standing before him, within the dazzling glow, was Narata, wearing their own Iliad around their neck. Their clothing was dirtied by the dust storm and hair full of soot. Their soft patterned face had been ravaged by scars. The once upbeat villager had grown into a battle-worn fighter, supporting themselves on a spear decorated with feathers. Narata laughed. Vorkara Sanara. It is good to see you again, Arthur. And you, old friend. They both smiled and laughed, catching each other's eyes. I'm glad you came. We desperately need your help, started Narata excitedly. Prowse jolted his head back. What did you think I'd come back here for? Look around. This planet is dying. Our way of life disappearing. The stories of our people are being grinded into dust. You can stop the mining operation. You have the sway to protect the historical significance of this world. And with what you have discovered from your artifacts you've catalogued, returning them, we can finally push back the mining operations to let this planet breathe. For Neramu to shine again. Prowse remained still and silent. The excitement on Narata's face dropped. That is why you have returned, no? Prowse took a deep breath and spoke. I know what you have done, Narata. You have damaged Imperial property, disrupted mining operations that are crucial to the running of our galaxy. You need to stop. Otherwise, I cannot protect you. Narata gave a nervous laugh and took a step back. Did you come here to arrest me? Only if I have to. Narata's voice cracked again. You promised. I thought. You are part of the biggest archaeological team in the galaxy. You have the power to stop this, to save our way of life. I am sorry to disappoint you. That is not what I'm here to do. Narata tightened their grip on their Iliad, resting on their chest. You promised. Times have changed. Van Ested Cardoa! The amber fog dimmed as Prowse pocketed his own Iliad and presented his hand to Narata. I will keep the Iliad safe, along with the artifacts we have archived. So you can hide them forever? So they can be preserved. So this mining operation can continue without destroying any more history that hasn't already been done. You are a liar, Arthur. If not worse, ignorant. Don't. I am trying to get you out of this mess. The mess your empire created. Too long has this planet been raided by those who think they can just take what they want. Too long have we suffered the fate of our history being nothing more than a whisper. Your empire wish to rewrite the galaxy. They wish to hide histories of those overthrown. Your empire is so afraid of people learning the truth. And what is that? The idea that one can fall. Arthur reached out his hand again and sharply spoke. Give me the Iliad. Narata placed their hand on the stone and tucked it under their scarf, and doing so, the fog turned mute in colour. Vrinata! Vrinata! Narata shouted while darting to one of the pillars. The sound of broken armour and screams from the stormtroopers echoed through the crumbled temple, followed by an array of blaster bolts illuminating the red fog. a flash in the fog in the distance, and another not too far. One almost hitting Prowse as he made cover standing behind a pillar. Readying his own blaster pistol, the display of lasers zoomed around the temple, revealing flashes of both troopers and Neramunians before disappearing into the fog again. Before long, the light show became sparse, and then to an end. An eerie quietness, just the sharp whispers of the wind whistled through the temple, and the low bass drum of the distant mining site. Prowse, still behind the pillar, darted his eyes ever so gently, peeked by. A whack came from his right as Narada jumped out of the fog, hitting Prowse hard on the arm, knocking his blaster out of his hand. Narada swung their spear again. Prowse narrowly dodged the blow, with the spear ripping his tunic. He lost his footing, falling back onto the stone floor. Narada stood over Prowse, aiming the spear's tip towards Prowse's chest. "Return the car Iliad," Narada furiously demanded. "You have dishonored its Venera." Prowse looked into Narada's fiery amber eyes. There was a tremble in their brow, a twitch in their cheek. "Narada, A red flash erupted from the fog, tackling Narada to the ground. Prowse quickly regained his footing and grabbed Narada's spear, now mirroring their stance over the Neramunian. A stormtrooper emerged from the fog. They nodded to give the all clear. Prowse nodded back and turned his attention to Narada. "Go on then, finish what you came here to do," Narada spitefully shouted, clutching their side. Prowse rested the tip of the spear on Narada's neck and nicked the necklace, retrieving the car Iliad. "Vil Ilmer Alzoro." Prowse took a few steps back and disappeared into the fog with the stormtrooper. Narada sat up near a crumbled pillar, clutching their wound once again, reeling from the pain. They shivered as they looked out into the fog. It got darker and darker, then to absolute black. The drum of the mining site had never felt so loud. It was inevitable. This planet and its memories will be nothing more than dust. Written and created by Matthew J.G. Fletcher. Music from John Williams, Stephen Barton, Gordy Hab, Jesse Harlan, Kevin Kiner. Sound effects from Star Wars Media, Ben Burt, and Public Domain Sound Effects. Created for Fletcher's Tales and Star Wars Imperial Historian.